Hello and welcome to In the Arts. I'm your host, Will Nichols, and I have a very distinguished guest on the show here. I'm very fortunate to have this gentleman who is very knowledgeable about something we all should be interested in. And it's my joy, my treat to introduce you to him. And my friend and colleague, he's also a musician. He sings and is active in the arts. And it's just so much, I can't get it all in. And so I'm going to stop and introduce you to my friend, Dr. Phil Jacklin. And what I wanted to ask you, is just a little bit about yourself, your educational history and things like that, and what brought you around into this particular subject and the interest in what you're doing with your knowledge I can't even say enough about the knowledge that you have about the vitamins and et cetera, and that's very valuable because like myself, I know about vitamins, but not really the pros and cons and the ins and outs of different things we can take and what they eventually how they affect our bodies. But getting back to that, just tell a little something about yourself, man. I guess your education, things like that people would like to know about you.
Well, just in case there's anybody from Oak Park, Illinois that's watching the program, I was born in Oak Park, Illinois.
All right.
The first western suburb of Chicago, in a hospital that was right across the street from Chicago. And then I went to Oak Park High School, and then I got a scholarship to go to a little men's school, at the time now it's co-ed, in Hartford, Connecticut, by the name of Trinity College, which is a little Ivy League, and I didn't know anything about that, but the dean said you could get a good scholarship there, and I got a tremendous scholarship, so I went there. Then I went to Yale and studied philosophy for 4 years and got my Ph.D. And got my Ph.D. in 1967, so I'm a pretty old guy. Older than Will. And so then I came out here. I taught at San Jose State, and also at when my wife went back to get her Ph.D., I went back and taught at University of Connecticut for a couple of years. So I love philosophy, but when I retired, got out of philosophy, I chanced upon an article in the paper. By the way, I went into real estate, which is strange, but I chanced upon an article in the paper about chromium picolinate, which I'd never heard of. Of course, it was on the second page of the Mercury News, and it said that they had done experiments which showed that with mice and so forth, it extended life for like 20 to 30%. And I was absolutely amazed at that. I thought, do they already know how to do that? So I started to research chromium picolinate. That was my first research project in the field of health. I'd never been in a health food store or anything like that. And that was 1992. Oh, so I've been studying for 25 years now.
Oh, all right. Taking care of yourself through the vitamin supplements, or not supplements, taking particular vitamins that are beneficial to the organs in the body, man. And
taking vitamins and also changing your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about what I call owl habits. And so I'm going to talk about 10 owl habits, which will, if each one would individually extend your life a year or two, and one of them, vitamin D, will extend your life about 5 years on average. This is the average person, the average extension. You might get hit by a bus, so
I fall down the stairs. Some things just happen.
Some things just happen.
I cross my fingers there.
Right.
And
so that's what we're going to talk about. And now the word owl puzzles people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How does that relate to the?
When I was president of the Smart Life Forum, which is now known as the Silicon Valley Health Institute, for 8 years, and one of the things I used to do is bring in. This is before some of the new technology. Computers were back in 1992, computers were not so important as they are now, and we did do a lot of handouts and use paper a lot. So I had a big old file cabinet like this. In fact, I used to wheel it in on a dolly. It was called the Owl Library. And the Owl Library, OWL, stands for Optimal with the O, Wellness, W, Longevity.
Okay.
So the pursuit of optimal wellness and longevity, that's the OWL pursuit. And people who are into that pursuit are usually called health nuts, which I think is a little bit of a pejorative term and making fun of people. I think they should get a lot of credit. I prefer to say that people who are self-reliant about, optimal wellness and longevity, they're owls. They are owls.
Okay.
And the owl, of course, is a symbol of wisdom. So instead of being a health nut, you can be an owl. And what my main recommendation tonight is be self-reliant. Believe that you can make a difference in your health and how long you live. And I'm going to give you some tips which are anybody can do with no money, really, basically. And so it's life extension by means of disease prevention. It's something you don't learn from your doctor, because your doctors, unfortunately, sorry to say, are pretty much taking orders for drugs. That's what they do. They're trained. That's what they're trained to do. They're good people, but they're in a very corrupt system.
And especially now that the articles have come out now with the over medication for pain.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
In fact, there's an epidemic. As you can see on the news, I saw news the other day that people are dying from that.
Oh yeah.
From the drug dependency.
The opiate epidemic.
Yeah. So of course, it's when Obama was president. It's been going on for quite a while. Right. I saw evidence of it when I worked at the VA hospital for a number of years. That exactly what that dependency can do to a person, man, make a zombie out of you,
yeah, sure.
And dysfunction you. So yeah, they are trying to. Actually, they've already got something in Congress act going to cut back on the overprescribing of these painkiller drugs. That's how Elvis went out of here. As was his doctor kept loading him up, man, and then his diet, he ate too much, he didn't eat right, and so the combination of that is a terrible situation. So finally they're realizing, finally now, that a lot of things that happen, and it's not. I'm not belittling doctors, I'm not belittling anyone, but we should have more control on the medicines that they give to the patients, and the effects of what that can.
I'm totally behind you, Will, on that. Yeah. So.
Go ahead.
Well, anyway,
I just thought I'd bring that point.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you brought it up. I have a dear friend, retired from IBM in the planning department, very bright fellow. And he got hooked on these painkillers for back problem or something like that. His wife has to keep him locked up. He gives his wife permission to not get him out when he begs for them.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's very tough. I mean, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
And then also with drug use, it become very cunning and clever. There's clever ways. I can't explain how to do it, but
we just go from one doctor to another.
Yeah.
Say, I'm just visiting from out of town, and can you help me out here?
Anything like that.
Yeah.
But getting back to the points, if I can memorize, you had very good back to the author. You had something
the 10 owl habits.
Yeah, that's what I want to get back to. Because there's so much there, man, that that we want to get to.
Shall I go over the points?
Of course.
Okay. Now, these are 10 habits which a person can decide to make a part of his life. And so it's a list of 10 things you can do to extend your life. The very first thing and the most important thing is vitamin D. And you can, by the way, before I go into giving you the list, I want to make one point. I don't think you should believe anything because I tell you, even though I've got a good education and I have nothing to sell, and I've researched for 25 years, you shouldn't believe it because I tell you. You should believe it because you can go online and verify or disconfirm anything that I say or anything your doctor says. And it won't take you long. You just put in the thing you want to research, like vitamin D, and then you can, I always like to use a plus because it makes it intuitive to me. I don't know if other people, anybody else does it that way. Vitamin D plus benefits. And then you'll see the benefits, and they're astounding. Mm-hmm. In the case of vitamin D, you can reduce your risk of heart attack by 50%. And these are great big studies. I have them with me here, but we don't have time to go into them. And in a recent study by Creighton University with respect to breast cancer, and breast cancer is kind of typical. It goes with prostate cancer, and they're very similar.
And actually, I found out a while ago that men can get that too.
Yeah, right. That's true. And in fact, I think they measured all kinds of cancers in that experiment. Creighton University, about 2-3 years ago, they discovered that if they gave people only 2,000 milligrams every day, that in the next following 5 years or something, it reduced cancer 70%. 70%. So it's almost as if vitamin D is like something that is so important to the body that if there's a deficiency of vitamin D, then you have a risk of cancer. If there's no deficiency of vitamin D, you don't get cancer. By the way, on the subject of cancer, in many parts of the world that are not yet, quote, civilized, people don't get cancer. And there's Gary Taubes wrote a book called Good Calories, Bad Calories. He's got a whole chapter on that. When the missionaries went down to Africa, they went down there thinking they were going to be treating the European diseases. They got there, they found out nobody had cancer, nobody died of heart attacks. Nobody. I mean, they were stunned. What people have a problem with down there is parasites and bugs and vitamins and snake bites and all that. But no cancer and heart attacks were almost unknown. So there's something about our way of living, our lifestyle, that makes us vulnerable to these two diseases. Between the two of them, they account for half the deaths of half of us.
You're right. You're right.
You know, about 25% of the people die of heart attacks and strokes and so forth. Well, another 25% cancer.
Obviously the way we live is much faster pace, and the more things become evolved into technology.
That's a part of it.
The stress evolves right along with the technology.
Yeah, well, stress is very important because it shuts down your immune system.
Yeah.
But the big thing is sugar, which I think is second in my list. Yeah.
Go ahead.
First thing is vitamin D. One more thing about vitamin D. Take at least 2,000, and it's much better if you take 5,000. And you can take it. There is almost no toxic limit. I don't have time to go into the explanation of all that, but there's almost no toxic limit. People have sometimes made mistakes and taken huge quantities for a year, and all that happens is that it throws off your calcium metabolism, and once it's diagnosed, it can be reversed. So it's never fatal. So don't worry about that. But at least 5,000 a day, especially in the wintertime, because it comes from sunshine. And of course, most of us don't get out even in the summer. So, and if you're black or dark-skinned, then you really need to take a lot of vitamin D because your skin is adapted to life around the equator where you don't wear a lot of clothes and you get all the sun you can handle. And so if you come up north then, vitamin D deficiency, if you're black, is especially common. And as a matter of fact, here's an interesting fact. We were all black at one time, and the only reason that we got white is because the black people couldn't make it in a northern climate where they weren't getting enough sun. So that by evolution there was an adaptation for the lighter skinned people to survive. Okay. So that my great grandparents were black, but when they came up, the lightest of their children were most likely to survive, and that's why white people are white. And it all makes sense. Anyway, then the sugar is the big thing in civilization, and that's probably that and the vitamin D deficiency are the things that lead to civilized life, causing cancer and heart attacks and strokes and so forth. The things that are not found among people who are not living in a high-tech societies.
Yeah. Okay.
So then the third thing is no smoke, which of course is nothing new.
Oh, yeah.
So first is vitamin D, second is no sugar, no smoke. The fourth thing is walking.
Yeah.
Walking is a tremendously beneficial thing. And if you can walk 3 times a week, it's great. My son is a kind of an owl. And he works out, all the time, and he's healthy as a horse and big, strong guy. And he reads this book written by some Frenchman called, what's it called? Let's see. The Best Medicine is You. You, if you're walking. So in other words, you have the capacity to exercise, and exercise is probably more powerful than any vitamin or mineral or anything else you can take. And so walking for 30 minutes 3 times a week will change your life. And so I'd like to say more about that, but I don't know if we're going to have enough time.
Speaking of walking,
because
I remember they have a treadmill.
Sure, treadmill, fine.
Because usually they use that. I don't use it like I should. I got to get back into doing it, but especially in the winter months. If it's raining, we go and do that. And you're absolutely right, because I felt a lot better. But in starting off with walking, don't try to make a big walk at first.
No.
Take a little bit and build it up.
Right.
Maybe walk to the corner and back, and the next time when you work, your body gets used to that.
Exactly.
Then you maybe go around not the whole block, maybe go segments, or maybe build around to a smaller part of the block. So you go around one block. Then when your body gets used to that, then you can go a little bit further and kind of keep track of your time. Take a good walk for maybe, because the time will build up as your body's building up to the distance.
Exactly right.
And eventually you can settle on the distance that works for you, and will give you the daily exercise that you need to build your body up to get used to that. And using the treadmill is good too, but still is even though we have the treadmill and we got the bicycle thing, this is nothing wrong, but actually you build your body up to actually do the walking. I think is really the most powerful thing. So actually, for myself, I tell you how I'm have to regiment is get on the treadmill first of all and get my blood to flowing. Then when I go ahead and start to go walking outside, I'm building my body up to it so that I'm able to sustain myself, through the levels that I mentioned, do that. So walking is very healthy. I see, and another thing, walking. I see elderly people walking, which is a good thing. They walk in the evening. They all go in a crowd, so that's a safety factor, as well as to guard yourself against any unforeseen things, or somebody might get sick. And you got people around you.
That's true too.
That's an important thing.
Yeah.
And not for just elderly people, anybody. If you can go with somebody, and that's a good point. So that's one point I want to bring out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To cover you, in case you need something may happen, God forbid, that you need emergency.
The hardest thing about walking is finding time to do it and not saying, oh, I'm too busy today, I'm too busy today, I'm too busy today.
Yeah, or working yourself up to do it, because it's easier to say, well, I'll go some other time. Right now, I got to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You have to really really be serious. Let's go to it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, now, number 5 is fasting, which is a big surprise. Now, by the way, all the things on my list are free except vitamin D, which is almost free because it's so cheap. But fasting is tremendously important. We don't have time to go into it. We could do a whole show on it sometime. It'd be great if I can talk well into it. And I brought a book that you will see. It's a great book, just came out last year. It's very good, written for lay folks, very convincing. It's not uncomfortable, so check that out. It's called The Guide to Fasting. It's on Amazon for about $20 or something. Number 6 is blood donations if you're over 55. There's very good reasons for that, and I'd like to explain it, but don't have time. Number 7 is wild salmon, which, of course, as you probably know, is a good source of omega-3 oil. And omega-3 is very important, reduces the risk of stroke and clotting. And both heart attacks and strokes, most of them are from clots, blood clots. So if you reduce the risk of clotting, you reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke. 8 is baby aspirin, which is amazing. It prevents cancer, and you can, again, go online. You're an owl. Be an owl. If you're not an owl, be an owl. Go online, put baby aspirin plus benefits, and it'll blow you away.
Oh, all right.
And then number 9 is beet soup, which the Russians turn into something called borscht. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but you can buy beet soup at a good grocery store like Whole Foods or some of the better grocery stores. And the last thing on the list is coconut oil, which is tremendously good for you and a source of energy. You never get fat eating coconut oil. It always immediately turns into energy. So whenever you need energy, you feel you're crashing, don't grab a donut. Get yourself a couple tablespoons. Keep the coconut oil at your desk, and just take a couple tablespoons. It does not spoil because it's completely from a chemical point of view. It's completely saturated, so you can leave it out on the counter, leave it out on your desk.
And I'm sorry, that's all the time we have for you. Thanks
Thank
for
you, Will.
making the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
And you have a email or something there, and you can lay it out on them.
Okay. They're going to show you my email, and if you would like a copy of the list, then send me an email, and I'll send you back the list. And my email, I'll just tell you what it is verbally here, but you'll also be able to write it down. It's P. Jacklin, Jacklin, like Jacklin Road, on 680, and then at ix.netcom.com.
For comments on the show, please send in to Wilbur_Nichols2003 @yahoo.com. And I'd like to know what you think of the show and some of the opinions. Again, I can just say I want to thank the crew, thank my crew for coming and doing such a great job and being reliable and helping put this show together. And there's hope that you find this information as valuable as I do, and it's very important to sustain your health and sustain your life and to extend it. So for now, I want to say God bless you and so long.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for the invitation.
You, Ray.
Okay.
All right.
Take it.